Make Your Mark Chapter 6 was such an overwhelming embarrassment to G5's characters, its themes, its established identity, even the prior chapters, that it feels exhausting to contend with it, even in post-mortem. There's so much that was never explained, so many ideas which were brought up and then either discarded or rushed to a resolution. What is the Hope Lantern, for example? What is its purpose in the greater narrative or to the equestrian people? Does it matter? What is its function? Why did it turn a pile of junk into the mare's stream? Does it just give power? What is it? What is the Hope Lantern? And I think a lot of people must have forgotten at this point, but they just start calling it the Hope Lantern. It's not established that that's what it is. When Izzy makes it, it's not established how it works, and they never bother to. You never learn what the Hope Lantern's deal is, and it's in practically every Make Your Mark chapter as a central point of focus. It just doesn't matter at the same time. We see Twilight sparkle once, if I recall correctly. There are conflicting accounts of what she did and how it happened. Misty gives a conflicting account of Twilight's plan. So does Sunny. So does Opaline. So does Spike later, and we don't learn which of them are true, if pieces of all of them are true. In some places, they're plainly contradictory, and if what Spike says the final time we hear about Twilight's plan, if we're supposed to believe Spike's version of Twilight's plan is canonical, it's crazy. It's wild. Imagine you're the dragons. Imagine some big bad gal descends from Alicorn Land. Well, I guess we'll never learn about Alicorn Land, but imagine some big gal descends from Alicorn Land and starts harnessing your power. So Twilight decides you just get to sleep forever. Your species just has to indefinitely be asleep. That's awful, and I don't know why the dragons are chill with that. I don't know why Sunny's chill with that. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing to do, and so was imbuing the crystals with pony magic. I'm never going to get over that one. Then again, did she imbue the crystals with pony magic? Are the crystals just representative of unity? What are the crystals for? I don't think we'll ever learn that either. Celestia and Luna get brought up as part of Opaline's backstory. It sounds like they bullied her and made her feel like the only way she could have social value was through power. That never comes back. In Chapter 6, she's just evil for the sake of being evil and sings about how she's just evil for the sake of being evil. There was a chance to do something meaningful or interesting with Celestia and Luna, with Opaline, and they just completely flubbed it. They introduced Megan's pendant in, I think, Chapter 5, and it just exists as a Hail Mary to G1 fans to be like, hey, G1 fans, we didn't forget about you either. It doesn't function for any purpose besides to coat Opaline in rainbows. I'm not sure what that did. I'm not sure why it worked. Even if you know what it did in G1, it doesn't provide any additional context as to what it's doing in G5 and why. They also just completely ignore the admittedly well-disliked plot point that when ponies disagree, rifts start opening up and the unity crystals destabilize, but that happened. Anyone remember when that happened in Chapter 1? It just doesn't happen again for some reason when ponies argue or there's disharmony. No idea. What is the deal with Misty's actual past? Why did Opaline adopt her? How did she go missing from Alphabetal? None of these things are properly explained. You just see some fog, you see her wandering around aimlessly, and then Alphabetal shows up on screen. Did he find her? Did he not find her? Presumably not. Why does Opaline want her? Why did Opaline want her? Nothing lines up about Misty's backstory. What in God's name is a fire alicorn and its implications? If it's something that Opaline just calls herself, which is implied, then there's a lot of potential there for some drama and character development, which is just never explored. When we do finally see the dragons, they tell us they all have their own unique powers, which we don't really get to see. One of them, I think they said they have the power of generating light with their fire, which is what fire already does. That's so bizarrely comical. But yeah, the dragons get no exploration or time to flex their powers or unique identities. And it seems like when they do finally stop Opaline, it's just because they agree that Opaline's bad and that they like being together, so they sing, place their hands on the tree, and they win. It basically takes care of itself. The main six, don't have to use any of the lessons they learned across Make Your Mark. It feels like all the character development was ultimately for nothing because it plays no part in the conclusion. And lastly, what in God's name happened to G5's focus on community and multiculturalism? I know I've banged that drum a lot. I'm going to keep banging it. G5 had its own thing. It was about multicultural relations. It was about community. It was about harmony with the greater world. And that's just completely missing. It's basically just friendship is magic all over again, but worse. And, like, people have told me, hey, what are you doing expecting explanations for all these things in children's media, let alone little girl children's media? And that's no excuse. Like, even if we're not leaning on G4, which was exceptional about these things, I've been around the block. I've consumed a lot of fantasy media, a lot of fantasy children's media, a lot of fantasy children's media for this demographic. It cares more, almost universally. It is crazy how little G5 cares about consistency and world building. It is embarrassing. And if you're not going to properly explore these concepts, tie them together, make them feel like pieces to a coherent whole, don't introduce them. G5 was embarrassing. I'm kind of glad Make Your Mark is over, and I don't have much hope for whatever's become of Tell Your Tale in Season 2 and onward, but I guess we'll see.